All right, let's just jump right in. Picture this. It's January 21st, 2026. We're a year into a second Trump administration, and something that started off sounding like, well, a joke, has now exploded into a massive global crisis. And the epicenter of it all? Greenland. And if you want to understand just how big this is, get a load of this number, $750 billion. That's not a typo. That's how much value the S&P 500 hemorrhaged in a single day. And the reason? A jaw-dropping ultimatum fired off from the White House aimed directly at some of America's longest-standing allies. Look, this is way more than just some diplomatic disagreement. We're calling it the 2026 Greenland crisis for a reason. It's got the United States staring down its own NATO partners all over the future of the world's biggest island. So the big question is, how on earth did we get here? To the absolute brink of a trade war we've never seen before. So what are the terms? Well, they're pretty blunt. The Trump administration has laid it out. They want the complete and total purchase of Greenland from Denmark. And to make sure everyone's paying attention, they've slapped a tariff ultimatum on 8 different European nations. The message is simple. Help us make this deal, or we'll cripple your economies. And they're not messing around with the timeline either. It is brutally simple. On February 1st, boom, a 10% tariff hits all goods from those countries. And if there's no deal by June 1st, that tariff skyrockets to an insane 25%. We're talking about a really high-stakes game of chicken with a very, very short fuse. But wait a second, what about the actual people of Greenland and all this? Well, you can bet they have something to say. Their response has been totally unified and absolutely defiant. You've got thousands of people pouring into the streets of the capital, Nuuk, and their message to both Washington and Copenhagen is crystal clear. Nothing about us without us. They're making it known they will not be treated like a piece of property. Okay, so why this sudden obsession with Greenland? And why right now? Well, the answer isn't just about planting a flag on a bigger map. It's all about what's under the ice. This whole thing is really a story about the global scramble for the resources that are going to define the rest of this century. The strategy behind all this is being called the Donroe Doctrine. And yeah, that's a nod to the old 19th century Monroe Doctrine. It's basically a 21st century version, declaring the Arctic as America's backyard and telling rivals to stay out. You've got Russia building up its military on its northern coast, and China is calling itself a near-Arctic state. So from Washington's point of view, Greenland has become this unsinkable aircraft carrier, absolutely essential for defending the hemisphere. And it's not just military strategy. There is some massive economic leverage here. Just look at this. Right now, China has a stranglehold on over 80% of the world's supply of rare earth elements. And these are the critical minerals you need for everything, from the most advanced F-35 fighter jets to the batteries in your electric car. So this really breaks down the White House's thinking. On one hand, you've got China's monopoly, which is a huge vulnerability. But on the other hand, you have Greenland's incredible potential. We're talking an estimated 36 million tons of these exact same deposits just sitting there. So for the administration, this isn't just a land grab. It's the only way they see to achieve what they're calling resource sovereignty. So how did this idea even get on the table? What's funny is the idea itself isn't new at all. The US actually tried to buy Greenland from Denmark way back in 1946 under President Truman. So how did a historical footnote suddenly become this high-stakes, all-or-nothing government policy? Well, the whole thing escalated way faster than pretty much anyone saw coming. You might remember it starting back in 2019. Most people just brushed it off as a real estate whim, right? But then, after Trump returned to office, it got serious. In 2025, it became official policy with the Make Greenland Great Again Act. And, well, that act is what led directly to the ultimatum that's shaking things up today. And things really went off the rails in 2025. First, the act authorized formal talks. Then, you had Vice President J.D. Vance showing up uninvited to the American-run Patuxent Space Base in Greenland. As you can imagine, that did not go over well with the Danes. The whole situation got so heated that the U.S. commander of the base was actually fired just for trying to stay out of the politics. All of this has basically thrown the entire Western military alliance, NATO, into a full-blown existential crisis. I mean, the geopolitical fallout here has been nothing short of catastrophic for unity. It's literally turning allies into adversaries right before our eyes. And if you want to understand the European side of this, just listen to this quote from the Danish foreign minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen.
He put it perfectly, saying, "You cannot treat a sovereign people as a bargaining chip. You cannot cross this line." That really sums up the outrage.
So how is Europe responding? With a move that is totally unprecedented since World War II. It's called Operation Arctic Endurance, and it involves allies, we're talking France and Germany, actually deploying troops onto Greenland. And this is not a training exercise. This is to protect Danish sovereignty from the United States. And this is where things get truly wild. Denmark is now hinting that it might invoke NATO's Article 5. You know, Article 5, the "an attack on one is an attack on all" clause. So just think about that for a second. The very clause that was designed to protect members from outside threats could be used as a shield against the leader of the alliance itself. The irony is just staggering. And believe me, the economic retaliation is just as serious. The European Union is getting ready to fire back with its own tariff package, and it's a monster. 93 billion euros. This, my friends, is what a full-blown trade war looks like. So all of this brings us right back to where we started, the immediate future. We've got this deadline just around the corner, and it feels like the entire global economy is just holding its breath, just waiting to see who is going to blink first. And the flashpoint for all this could literally be any day now. Right as we're talking, President Trump is touching down at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Everyone is watching his meetings there with European leaders because they're seen as the very last chance, the final off-ramp to de-escalate this whole mess before those tariffs actually kick in. Yeah, that February 1st deadline, it's not just a date on a calendar. It's a ticking time bomb for the global economy. You've got economists everywhere warning that if this trade war actually happens, it could trigger a complete and total freeze of global supply chains. And remember, those supply chains are already fragile after all the disruptions we saw in 2025. And that leaves us with the one central question, doesn't it? Is this whole push for Greenland a brilliant strategic necessity for the US, a way to secure its future and push back against its rivals? Or is it just a raw act of coercion against a friend, a move that's a bridge too far for diplomacy? Whatever the answer turns out to be, it's going to shape our world for decades.